Okay, hello everyone. How's the sound, I wonder? Okay, great. I'll get started now. So this is my game against Iwamoto. He was one of the greatest players in the 20th century, I believe. Um, but he was also very well known for his promoting Go throughout the world. So he made very a number of tours to the West. He actually lived in New York for about a couple of years. I think it was something like 18 months, and he was teaching there. Earlier in his life, he also lived in Brazil. So he spent a few years in Brazil, and a good part of that was spent teaching Go. So he spent a lot of his life in the West, and he donated a huge sum for Go centers throughout the world. So maybe you have, maybe some of the people watching this have a Go center close enough to themselves um, to know what I'm talking about. So like there's Go Center in Europe, there's a Go Center in Amsterdam, and in the West there was one in New York. It sort of moved to Washington D.C. and there was one in Seattle and Sao Paulo in Brazil. Okay, so let's get into the game. Um, I didn't actually have the opportunity. Yeah, it's the same Iwamoto. That's Jeremiah Donnelly. He's the same Iwamoto who sponsored all those Go centers. He sold his land, and it was during, I think it was during the bubble years in Japan. So everything was extremely expensive, and so he sold his land and he donated all of the money. I think the sum that you find in in the news about it says it's something like 5 million US dollars or something like that. And when I went to Japan in 1977, I started going to his study group. So I actually learned from him directly. And he was already a fairly old man, but I never got to play him as a tournament pro. So like no tournament games. Um, at that time, it was difficult for a low dan player to actually play against a 9 dan. You had to in the present system, you can sort of work your way up and get seeded in higher rounds of the tournaments. But when I was a 1 dan professional or a low dan professional, the low dans had this little tournament of their own, and you never promoted out of it until you got to 5 dan. So you had to go through that every year for about 4 games, 4 rounds. Of course, it's a elimination, so you have to win all the games, and then probably a few more rounds in the second section to finally get to someone like you want to. So I never managed to do that. Of course, you have to be in the right group of players also to get there. So it requires some luck also. So I never managed to play him in the tournaments. But he chose me for this game. He chose me after he retired. He was 90 years old and he retired. So let's go back to the beginning of the game. Someone in the comments mentioned the Chinese opening. Um, the Chinese opening was a very popular opening at the time. And so if we assume white plays some normal move here, it's likely that black is going to play either the low Chinese like this or maybe the high Chinese. So it could be the high Chinese. Um, and I didn't know about London, but yes, he did. His money. There's a Go Center in Amsterdam that he's sponsored. Maybe he did that for London too. So when I play here, actually I have the white stones. It was an even game, and we just drew colors. So although I was the younger player, I would have been perfectly happy to take black since it was a kind of a special game. It wasn't a tournament game. He wanted to do it the tournament style. So we drew colors, and I had white. So what I'm doing with this move, the 3-4 point in the lower left corner, is I'm trying to invite a Kakari. So the Go theory of the time had it that when black plays a Chinese opening like this, or like, let's make it the high one. I think he was probably going to play the high Chinese. When black plays a Chinese opening and white plays a shimari from the 3-4 point, the shimari, the corner enclosure in itself, is supposed to be really good, but it's also supposed to be pointing in the right direction to reduce black's potential on the lower side. And by doing that, the shimari, the corner enclosure, is doing double work. It's not only being a corner enclosure, but it's also reducing the lower side. It's supposed to be a very efficient move. So this idea, which is not fully supported by AIs actually, but this idea does sort of induce black to want to play the Kakari, which is an okay move. This is black could have played the Chinese, but nowadays people don't play the Chinese anyway, so the comparison is difficult. Playing a Kakari here is a good enough move, and white plays a Kakari. So the idea with white's opening at the time, with the Go theory that we had, the opening theory we had, was that this stops black from playing the Chinese opening. White gets to play an approach move in the lower right corner. So black pins her. And again, this was a very popular move at the time. So we're playing the contemporary Go theory, but it's not supported by computers. The computers actually, Katago actually wanted me to play a pincer here, which is pretty unusual for Katago. There was a variation that I created with it, of course, 3-3 point. So like it's going to be something like this. So definitely not going to be happening in 1992. And I played here. So the idea with this is that I'm threatening, if black plays here, I'm going to play here. And the joseki we had at the time was like this, where white's going to play here, maybe going to invade again. So white gets to connect the stones up. Just having that extra stone there, it will make it difficult for black to push through and cut, because white has that extra stone supporting the whole thing. So this fight is probably okay for white. So black answers that, and now I still could have played here. So this is sort of fun because at the time I would suspect that black is going to fight like this, but the modern variation has black playing here, and this is actually supposed to be slightly better for black. So it would be like this, and I would capture the one stone there, but black would have a very solid position towards the right side and would play away now. So again, 3-3 point. Modern Go theory. So yeah, so the idea that I had was that white plays this move. This is not only is an extension making a base on the lower side, it's also a pincer to the black stone on the left. So it's supposed to be a double purpose move, and so it's supposed to be really efficient, and locally it's good for white. And black plays here. So this is a great position black has on the right also. And this is how we did it at the time. And black extended, and we got into this fight. So black is going to move out with this group, and it's going to be a fight towards the center. So when we look at it with Katago, actually, everything changes at this point. So black is not going to actually try to save this stone. And the idea that I want people to have looking at what's going to happen now is that white has a local advantage on the lower side. And so I have 4 stones, if we count all of them, 4 of these stones against the 1 black stone. And black's strategy locally is going to be to try to play a lot of forcing moves, probably from the center of the board, and maybe just give white that lower side so that black can have an advantage elsewhere. So it starts with black playing a pressing move here, and the ladder favors black. So if white plays here, black will be able to capture the ladder. Or if white does this one, I think black would probably be okay with this. There seems to be a lot of extra, maybe a bit too many stones on the lower side. So we would say white is over concentrated in this variation. And so white's going to play here and intends to cut if black covers. So black plays here. So this is, I don't really recommend copying this because it does take a lot of research to actually make it work. I'll just show you one variation here. Because white does actually have something like four ways to play against this. When your opponent plays an attachment against one of your stones, generally you have a choice of extending to one or the other directions, or playing a hane against the black stone, so the opponent's stone. So you actually have four choices here. White has four choices, and I'll just show you. Let's see, which one shall I do? This way, black will play a hane back. And yeah, so this is probably a good example of how black is sort of sacrificing the lower side and getting what should be influence towards the center of the board. And so just giving up on that local area because white has such a huge local advantage, it does make sense. And so this is how it would be played at the time. Probably something like this. And again, 3-3 point. So this is modern Go theory. Definitely not what we did at the time. Extending here was actually played by all of the prominent players at the time. So it was the accepted Go theory. And at this point, I curled around. So I sort of had an idea that what was going to happen. So so I was expecting black to cover here. Black can squeeze and connect everything up. And I will probably jump out here, something like this. I have a fairly solid shape on the bottom side, and I'm starting to make territory on the left side here. This is more or less enough room to be alive, and I would probably move to some other part of the board after this. Actually, curling around, the game move here, a very sharp move. So when I curled around here, black curled around on the top. And it turns out this was a pretty important point. So going back to the white move, I probably should have pushed once more. And if black extends, white can curl around, white can continue pushing or whatever. It's probably okay for white to be doing it this way. And eventually I would be playing something on the left side. So this would be okay. I should have pushed a bit more. And curling around was a very the black move was very effective. D5, okay, that's an interesting question. If I can still find it. Jeremiah Dunley. Could I see black playing D5 in the 90s before moves like Q5? Okay, that's interesting. So it would be at this point. Black could play this exchange. This kind of move was actually fairly popular in the Edo era, so like 300, 400 years ago. I'd say it's more like, yeah, it was probably popular before that. So I think going into the Edo era, it was a very common move. And for instance, Dosaku, Honinbo Dosaku liked to play this move. It could be played before this, but in the 20th century, most people actually did not like this move for black, so it wasn't played very much at the time. But I think nowadays it could be played. There is the potential that white will push through and cut, so I don't really know how that fight will turn out. I think this should be playable for black, like something like this. And maybe the slide. This is not gonna be a crash for black. Black should be able to fight this out. Playing the pressing move here. There are some games where Honinbo Dosaku did something similar to this. So it's not completely unheard of, but it's very difficult to make everything come together, because when you have an outright fight, when you start with this fight, it's generally going to be very dangerous for black. So black does need some extra value, some extra helping stones. So one of the ideas with this is black is going to try to make some extra stones on this side. So for instance, in this case, I'm getting into another variation here, but yeah, in this case, black would have more stones added to that black group, which would make it feasible for black to be doing something like this. Maybe something like this, or black could be playing away with 15. Maybe another 3-3 point in modern Go theory. So black does need some extra stones to actually make this kind of move work, and it wasn't played very much. Not in that timing either, but maybe before white kicks. This was a point where black could have played the pressing move. So yeah, it is feasible that someone would do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Leonardo sort of has it. Black looks a bit weak, and white does have a base. Basically, pressing at d5 after white is kicked in the corner, it's just a very dangerous thing to do. Yes, it's very tactically dangerous. And so people didn't think it was viable until we saw computer programs such as AlphaGo, and now we can use Kado and stuff like that. Now we have computer programs that show us variations that are seeming to work, and so we can play it. So black curled around here, and yes, I want to push out here, and he played here. So this is a fighting style move. He's inviting me to extend out into the center so that he can extend here. So everything is going to be cut off. It's going to be a big fight in the center. Black has some ideas that he can squeeze my group on the bottom there. So that this group here, if we just look at the immediate area here, it's sort of borderline as to whether it has enough room to be alive or not to be alive. So black does have some ideas that maybe black can squeeze that group. The more simple move would be simply to extend. And this would limit white's potential, because it would limit white's choices, because pushing here, now this is not such a good move because it allows black to play a Hana in the center, and black gets great shape there. White's not so good. So I would probably be playing a move like this, and then black could play away. So maybe this was better. It does leave a vital point in the center here. So if white can get to that point, it would be an annoying peep there. Exactly. The d5 move, it's really exciting. Let's just take another peep at it. This one is really exciting, and if you know how to use it, it's in combination with this attachment. So there's going to be a zillion variations there already. Like white already has 4 choices as to how to respond to this move, and so the variations are a very large number. So you do have to understand it, but your opponent will be lost too. So maybe it's an even fight. So we get into this fight here in the center, and I have 2 options. So I can do something to try to capture these 2 stones, which of course would be black's cutting stones. And so that would be one plan that I could have. Or I could try to lean on these black stones. So capturing the 2 stones, my idea would probably be something like Let's see if I've made a variation. Yeah, this something like this. If I can get a peep there, and for instance, this would be a case where I've captured the two stones. If black answers directly with something like that, I can push them around a little bit, at least. Maybe it's not going to be possible to actually kill them. It's going to be a bit tricky. So like, for instance, in a shape like this, black can actually escape. So black can play here and push through here, and they're going to connect up. So it's a position where I can get some forcing moves from the center, and in this case, white's 7 is a significant stone because it's giving me a living shape, settled shape on the side. So something like this is something I could have tried. There's some potential gains that I can get from chasing those two black stones. But instead I played here, and I'm leaning in the center. And I have this idea here, where I'm going to immediately try to cut the black root. So this is because this idea came to me because I was expecting that at some point black would be covering here. So this was the move that I expected when I curled around here. I was expecting black to cover on the left. And so since he didn't do what I had expected, I'm assuming that there must be some weakness there for black. And so that's where my calculations started. So that's what brought me to do this and play the Hane here in an attempt to cut black off. So this is where it gets a bit wild. And actually the computer wanted black to play here. And there's variations to this one too. So like if white answers that, the idea is that black is going to play the attachment instead of just pushing out. And so it's going to be something like this. This is a bit more cramped for white, so this would not be a good variation for me. Black would be able to squeeze me like this, and it would be a fight in the center. Pushing through at 17 is a very an important move also. So black's going to win the fight in the center, and black's group on the left, just because it has some stuff to do against the corner, it's probably not going to... Black can put pressure on white's corner. It's probably not going to die. So, but of course, you know, if you make a mistake, it's going to die. So it's an exciting fight here on the left too. I think black's probably going to be okay on both sides. Instead, he just simply pushed through. So if he had played this move, I probably would have extended here. But he can dodge to the left. So this would be an exciting fight in the center where I'm going to try to attack that black group. And he's got some profit in the corner. And he does have the potential cut here, which can complicate things for me on the left side also. So my computer thinks that this is just fine for black. For a human game, I think it would be exciting. So he just cut and pushed through. So this was... After this, it was forced, and black does have to play that. If black does not, white can just capture these stones. So this would capture in a snapback. Okay, so he extended, and this creates the threat of pushing through here, which is a very effective move in the center of the board. But for the time being, I'm putting pressure on his group on the left. And I have to play from this group, because this is my weak group. The group in the corner is going to be okay. So I'm not so worried about my stones in the lower left corner. I do want to play from this group to keep my local advantage there. And at some point, I have to get back to the center with some kind of a connection like this, so as to make the fight in the center more or less even. Because if I connect there, then there's a weak white group in the center, but there's also a weak black group left to it. So it would be a relatively even fight between this black group and this white group, if I can play that marked point in the center of the board to make some kind of a connection. And before I do that, before I start that fight, I do want to reinforce these 4 stones on the left first. And so what's going to happen in the center is the important part of this. And what happens in the lower left corner is actually a bit less important. And so I'm understanding this at the game. I did get a bit too keen in trying to kill black in the lower left corner here. So we'll see that happening. So here, yeah. So I curl around and play here. So this looks like it's some wild attack against the black group. And maybe that's what it was intended to be. I don't really remember what my emotions were at the time. But it's very logical for white to be playing from the outside like this, because this is the group that white wants to reinforce. So even though if we look at the correct variation following this, black's going to be able to live, that's okay, because white's idea is to strengthen the group on the outside and to get Sente to play this move in the center. So that's an important move that I have to get back to. Otherwise, this fight in the center is just going to be very one-sided and an advantage for black. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think I'm okay. Yeah, so black played here, leaning on the corner a bit, and I go down. This is a living shape in the corner. So locally, this point and this point are Miai, and I have enough room to be alive. And black plays here. So this black group, it's sort of precarious, and I actually went straight for the kill, which was a mistake. So let's take a look at the next few moves in the game. Black has one eye here. You might notice that it's a snapback-like shape. So if white plays here, let's see, it's black's turn. So if white plays here, it's a snapback. So white can't save that stone. And so it looks like black has only one eye, but actually going after it like this was a mistake, because when black connects here, this is a forcing move against the corner. So if white plays from this side, black can play. This is a move worth remembering, actually. Black plays the 2-1 point. If black plays this point, which is like if this was a life and death problem, maybe this would be one of the answers. You could also kill by playing a Hane here, but like there's multiple ways to kill this group. When you play like this, it is a dead five shape, so it's going to be a dead 5 shape. Let's just fill the liberties. This dead 5 shape has a lot of liberties, so it's going to be like this and like this. Black has to play inside here and make this shape to kill the white group. It means that white has 8 liberties at this point. So including this stone is going to cost black 8 moves to kill the white group. And there's no way black's going to win the race to capture. So at this point, black is still an Atari. He's already an Atari. And this shape, white still has 5 liberties. So it takes 1, 2, 3 moves. This is something worth remembering. And it's not 4 moves because white takes and gets an extra liberty again. So that was 5 moves from the 4 stone space. 5 moves from this point. And it was 8 moves. Let's see. Let's go forwards a bit. It was 8 moves, including this stone that black plays here. So that's one of the things people learn about big eyes. They increase the number of liberties you have. And so this would be an easy win for white. And the problem here is that this is a big eye. It's a big eye already, and it gets a bit bigger when white plays here. But when black plays this move, this is going to make it a small eye. So like if white does this and goes after the 2 stones and something like this, this is a small eye. So it's going to be easy win for black. So let's do that one. Let's do it this way. Okay, already white's an Atari. So now black has something like 3 liberties to spare. Yeah, the big eye wins. I actually did a video about that. Okay. I don't have the link ready. It's in my beginner series. White's best move here is actually to expand, and it's going to be like this and like this. And black has an eye, so I'm going to play Atari. I win by one move. But this is an interesting situation in the corner. It's actually a ko. It can be a ko. And you might notice that also black already has the option of making a second eye here. So it's very one-sided and bad for white. So that's the tactical side of it here. And black plays, so if I play here, black can play here. I can extend my liberties by making an eye shape here. This would extend my liberties, but the best I can expect from this is it's probably going to be a seki. If it was a ko, it would be a very distant ko that favors black, but it's probably going to be a seki. So that's no good. So when black connects here, I have a problem because if I answer here, black is going to get an eye on the side. So going after the black group was not reasonable. And actually what I should have done is just to give you a little preview of what I do is, first of all, instead of curling around here, I do have this move, which pulls out the white stone. So as a way of taking away black's eye, this is going to win. But it's going to kill my corner group, because I have no way to make two eyes now. So this is not really working, but it's something that I can look to play after I've cut here. So I actually want to cut here, maybe playing this exchange in the center first. And then I can cut here. And once I've played that, next, now I'm alive. So next I can play here and take away black's eye space. So this would be a threat to kill black. And white's free. Not only would it give me a nice little territory there in the corner, but it also protects this group by making a potential connection there. It gives that group, it actually gives it more space, and it gives it a better situation where it can potentially connect up to the corner. And if black cuts it off, white will have an extra move to do something about it on the right side. So it strengthens the lower side group. It lives in the corner. Black will probably continue. Let's see, where does black play now? Where are we? Yeah, we're here. Black will probably make some extra room there. And eventually black has to live. So this is the computer-generated variation, something like that. It develops to a fight in the center. I'd say black has a slight advantage in this fight in the center with a position on the right. But everything depends on how the right side territory develops, because that's the only area that black has. So I have some small areas, but I have a number of them. So something close to 10 points here, a few points in the corner. If they connect up, it's more than 20 points. But assuming black cuts them off, I'll be making 10 points on the right side. I have a little area here, which looks like it might be something close to 20 points. And black doesn't have very much territory. Black has only a little territory here, and we don't know what's going to happen to the top and right sides. It's all going to focus around this fight in the center of the board. So yeah. Okay. Just checking my stream connection. I think it looks okay. So this would be the computer variation. In the game, I actually went after the group. So that was, playing this move to go after the group was a mistake, because I should have been cutting here and looking at this move here. So that's the bottom line here. But yeah, for a moment, I guess I thought I could kill that black group. It's not reasonable. So here, if I play here, oh no, I'm not going to do that. If I play here, then black is going to play here and live on the side. So this would be a living shape this way. Or if white plays here, black has to play this way. So this would be alive too. I actually played the Hane here, and so I'm getting rid of this move. So now if black plays here, I can play here, and he can't win it's actually alive. So like this. playing the placement here, it's not going to be very successful for black. So it's not really going to work. He would have to continue like this. And it's going to take a long time for black to get any kind of attack against the corner. It ends up as a ko, actually. But this is just not working for black. Black's group on the outside would get into trouble, lose liberties before anything happens. So I'm limiting black's attack in the corner to this move, which I told you, this move, it does give white a lot of liberty. So in this case, I would be hoping to win the race to capture. And against this move, I have this move ready. So if we isolated this position, and basically what we would have to do to make this a valid problem is that we would have to make this white group very stable. So for instance, maybe we could get rid of these two black stones and make it a connected shape for white on the outside. Then this would work. The problem is that when I do this in the actual game situation, it's a Tetsuji that kills the black group. So the idea is that if black plays here, white's going to wedge here and squeeze, giving black a false eye. The game move was here. I can still kill it by playing here and playing here. And if black takes, I can throw in. The problem with this is that my group on the right is really weak. So like he can just do something like this or something like this. And my group it's going to die. Or black can take once and play stuff like this. It's going to be bad for white. So for instance, something like this maybe. This would be one example of a crash for white. Or it could be like this, a ko that I can't win. And yeah, it's just not working. And so I come to this point and I cannot continue. And so I have to find, and my group here, this group on this side, let's see, trying to grasp the pen here. This group on this side, it's lost some space. So I'm running out of space there. I have to try to figure a way to save this group. The one redeeming point is that this black group, it's living with it for black or capturing it for white is so important that it's more important than anything else. And so momentarily, for the time being, I don't have to worry about this white group in the center. I can sacrifice that if the result allows me to capture black's group in the corner. So I played here, making some extra liberties for this group. If black had continued in the center with something like this or something like this, it would have ended up being a race to capture on the bottom. So like if it was the tournament game, maybe black would have done this. It would have required a lot of reading. But he decided to play the simpler move. And I think that my computer actually agreed with him with this move. He's alive now. You might notice that since I played this move in the attempt to kill black, I haven't actually lived in the corner. So now black can kill that corner. I actually showed you black playing here. If it's a life and death problem, this is not the correct move. Black can kill it with a Hane on the first line. So that's how black kills this corner. This would allow white to get a ko with the attachment here. So that would be, locally, it would be a mistake when it's just the isolated corner situation. These the correct moves here, they can change when it's more like a race to capture situation with a surrounding position. But when it's isolated, this would be the correct. So what's happened here is my corner is liable to die if black adds a stone there. So that's about a 30-point move that's left behind. But momentarily, I do have an advantage in the center of the board. So I'm trying to capture these 3 black stones. And black's group in the center here is not very strong. So that's going to keep the game exciting, I might say. Yeah, it's going to keep the game exciting. Of course, my computer likes black, but it's from the human point of view, it's still undecided, I think. So does anyone want to give me the tesuji for black to save these 3 stones? Just put it in the chat if you. Okay, Zogi Zogi in Twitch is asking for the chat in inlay. I didn't do that this time. I'm not gonna. Oh, the computer. I think it was. I'm not gonna be able to do that this time. But someone else was asking about how much does it like black. That's a good question. I think it was something like 10 points on the board, and I forget what the percentage was, but it's pretty big. And we only have a 5.5 point komi because it was before the year 2000. So in Japan, the komi was 5.5. And I think that's true of Korea also. China had maybe a bigger komi. I'm not sure exactly when China changed the size of their komi. But it's only a 5.5 point komi for us. So black's probably about 10 points ahead on the board. And that calculation, it doesn't really mean anything. It's just it's an average of the various results that the computer gets. So it doesn't mean that black is actually going to win by that margin. The M8 answer. M8 is the tesuji. That's right. Okay, that was suggested by Jeremiah. Very good. So this is the tesuji for black. So here, and the way it works is that if white pushes through, black will push through, and black 4 here becomes a forcing move. So that's how black escapes. Or if white plays on the other side, I actually played the bamboo joint, but it's the same thing if white plays here. It's the same story. It's the same basic shape. And it doesn't really help if white fills a liberty here. It doesn't change anything anyway. Because black does have 2 liberties on this side. So it's not going to make any noticeable improvement for white. So this is the correct move. Anyone who thought this move? N7. You go with N7. N7 is a bit more difficult to make it work. Okay, let's see how that... N7 would be very similar. And it might work. Let's try N7. It's very similar, but you end up playing here anyway. And so you're not getting to the correct point quite so directly. So it's a lot more work that black has to do to get to the jump here. It's a bit cleaner. I'd say that that's also one of the correct answers, but it's cleaner to be playing the attachment here. And okay, so in the game I played the bamboo joint to get to the same position, and in this case black's not playing this clunky move. It becomes a clunky move now, so it's better for black to be jumping out. So this was the game variation. It turns out that it would have been an easier win if black had just sacrificed those 5 stones after all. So this is probably sort of counterintuitive and hard to understand. But the point is that this kosumi in the center of the board is a very important point that settles that black route. And if I answer it in any way, then of course this is going to be very one-sided. So I'm going to capture these stones, something like this. Actually, I forgot to put this stone in. So black's going to extend once, and I'm going to play something like this to capture the 5 stones. And this is a key point here, which is obviously threatening to cut off the 5 white stones, but it also, I don't have time to save them. I have to extend it on the side. This would be a win for black. This would be another of those variations that's probably about 10 points before komi, which is a comfortable win. The fight is all over, so it makes it very much easier for black to keep this under control. And so this would be an easy win for black. The corner in the lower left corner it's going to die if black plays first. So that's a big move black has to happen. Black's lower right corner, this is alive already. So black doesn't really have to worry about the fact that potentially white can cut it off. It's not a big issue. It's not something that black has to worry about very much. So he escaped, and I played here, putting pressure on. So this was an important move where I can play a Hane here and continue to attack the black group. And black escaped once. So pushing is actually bad shape because white can Hane and black cannot Hane back. So this would just be a collapse for black. It's actually better shape for black to be playing the diagonal move. So it looks sort of wiggly and not so beautiful, but it's actually the correct shape in this position. And I connected here. So this is a kind of a double threat. And it's at this point that I think that Iwamoto decided that he wanted to, since this was kind of a special game that was not a tournament game, I think he wanted the game to continue instead of making it decisive at this point. Because what I'm saying here is that if black had played on this side, this would have developed into a huge race to capture, and it would have ended in a collapse for one side or the other. So this is one way the game could have gone, and it would have been very dangerous for both sides. And the point is that it would have been a crash at this point, and the magazine sponsoring this game would not have a lot of moves to show people. So I think he decided for that reason not to do that. Something like this would follow, where I can actually surround the black root. It's surrounded, and it's going to be a race to capture, and black can win by playing this key point. So this is a really neat move, which is really going for the neck here and filling white's liberties very effectively. And the point is that if white tries to kill this, usually white would chase this to the side and kill the two black stones. Black can connect up. So this position where black, where there was a white stone on the first line and black has cut the second line, it actually it helps black's connection. These two stones, this exchange. So usually these stones would be captured from above, but the white stone there at K1 is getting in the way, and white cannot play here. Or white can play there, but it just gets captured. So this is actually like if that stone at white K1 was not there, white would be able to capture the two stones. But since white cannot, it's just going to be a collapse for white. So yeah. So what does white do? Going back to this point, when black plays here, white could play here, but it's just not going to be enough liberties. White's going to lose the race to capture. I'll leave it here, but white's going to lose the race to capture. I would attempt to make this huge moyo on the top side. If you ask my computer, it's going to be easy for black to erase the whole thing. So it would be a win for black, and my group on the bottom side would have died. Black would have won this semi. But I think he decided to extend the game, partly because it was a game staged for a Go journal, and he didn't want it to end in something like 100 moves. So I captured the 5 stones, and black is switching to the left side. This actually, he backed off a bit here, so the game is close to even now. And I'm splitting the two black groups. And here, this is a kind of a double peep, threatening the cut here and the cut here. So that's how that is working. And I sort of want to capture that black stone. So I could answer here, but then later on I would have to, this is actually a move, maybe I should have played it because it's threatening to cut here. But eventually I would have to answer this cut also. So I would have to play 2 moves in this case. For the time being, black has to answer that. So this is something I could have done. But I played here to go after that black stone. And if black does this, this is going to be a wild fight. This is something that he could have done. Thank you, David. Yes. This would have been an exciting fight. I might pull out here. something like this. In this case, it's not clear what's important in this fight because there's all sorts of danger points. So there's the cut here, and black can push through here to cut. Sometimes black will try playing an Atari to cut. White can push through here to capture some black stones in the center. And if black plays something like this or something like this, my position on the left side is going to fall apart. So I'll just leave this here. It would be exciting. It would have been the strongest way for black to play. Instead, he played a preparatory move here, and I finished off this. So this is maybe a slight advantage for white. It's a close game. And I play here. This is splitting the two black groups. So it's this black group and this black group. For the time being, just because I'm so strong in the center now, this group is all connected up. It means that the black group in the center is the relatively weak one. So I'm planning to chase that. And he answered here to save that group. It means I get back to the corner. This is a living shape in the corner. And so I have a living shape on the side and a living shape in the corner. And I'm chasing two black groups. It's important to remember that this group still is in danger. So that's, if white plays there, it's something like 5 or 6 points territory for white. And if black plays there, it's something like 25 points for black. So it's something like a 30-point move there in the lower left corner, a liability for white because most of the territory is going to be black's. And so I have this, I have to eventually get back to this corner. So I'm attacking wildly. My attack has to succeed to a certain degree. Obviously, it would be good to be able to capture a black group, but that's probably not realistic. I want to chase black around a bit, and eventually I'll have to get back to the lower left corner, after which we can start talking about how is the territory. So the idea of territory, it's just going to be bad for white if we assume black gets to kill that group. So my game plan has to involve my getting back to the lower left corner. So that's a very important point. Locally, in the upper left part of the board, I am attacking. So I have this living shape here. It's probably going to be about, at this point, it looks like it's going to be close to 10 points. I have this capture here. It's 10 points plus some empty dame. But not so much because black does have a cut here and it's not so much space. So it's 10 points at least. 10 points on the left. I probably have a few points in the corner. So the territory is not so big, but I do have a big attack going on here. If we look at black, black has a position here. So this is black's one big territory. Black has something like Komi with this group. Something close to Komi. It's not quite Komi maybe. And so black plays here. And so here, I found what I thought was a clever move. And it was this. So this was really bad. And yes, I should have just simply answered in the corner, maybe this one or maybe this one. So if I play the empty triangle, quite often in this corner situation, this is one of the few shapes where the empty triangle is good. So it's good in this case because it's heading towards the carpenter's square shape. So the carpenter's square is when black plays here and plays here, and we have this square-like shape. Okay, I can't get rid of that. It's not going to stop. Excuse me. Okay. Got rid of my wake-up call. Okay, so the carpenter square is good in this position because first of all, it's going to be some kind of a ko, but it takes a long time for black to kill it. So it's going to be a ko with, in many cases, it has plenty of liberties. And actually, when white has potential forcing moves like the Hana here, it does become very difficult for black to actually kill this group. So The Carpenter square is a bit difficult to understand. All you have to know is that black's first move is going to be here. This is the best first move. And white's probably going to play some kind of an attachment like this. And it does become very, very difficult for black to kill. So for instance, the most standard way to try to kill it is to play Hane at 8. And black would be able to kill with a sequence like this, which doesn't work when this is a forcing move. It's a forcing move in this case. So if black has to answer that, this is just not working. This is going to be a seki. So the way it would work if that was not a forcing move is that black would be able to do stuff like this and make a dead shape in the corner. So when that capture at 13 is forcing, it's not quite working. And when it does work, it's going to be a shape that has a lot of liberties in the corner. For the time being, black has to deal with the group on the outside. So I could have done that, or I could have done the jump. Playing the jump would also have been the jump here. In this case, when black plays here, I do get to crawl once. And this is going to be a living shape. So I could have done that. Or if black covers here, I can play the kosumi. So this is sort of a ko in the corner if black plays here. But I also have some space towards the right to escape in later. So this ko, it probably doesn't bother me too much. I have an escape route to the right. Okay, so yeah. Oh, I jumped ahead. So what happened here is when I played here, I have the idea that I'm making miai of these 2 points. These 2 points. And I thought I was being clever. And it was really bad. Because black plays here. And I cut, obviously. And now black cuts here. And so now I realize that I'm in trouble. So what kind of trouble it is that these 2 stones, you might say they're in check. They're about to be captured. And that's because if I connect here, black can play here just locally. Black, in an actual game, black might choose to play this one first, but black can play here. And when white plays here, this is a kind of a snapback-like situation where black can play here, and white cannot cut here because black can push through. So this black stone is sort of lying in wait to create the snapback there, and this is a crash for white. So it would be okay if black was just going after the one stone here. So like if black was going to play this and then play here to capture the one stone, maybe I would have played this variation. So this would be acceptable. But the fact that black can actually capture all of white's stones like this is just too much. It's too much. So I answered on this side, capturing the one stone. So that gets rid of black's move here. But I'm in trouble on this. This is a double Atari, obviously. So I'm in trouble on this side. At this point, the game is probably slightly better for black. Black has ko threats. So I'm not going to win this ko outright. And that means I have to deal with cutting points here, here, and here. I have 3 cutting points that I have to deal with. So I'm going to be doing that. Okay, so I played here, fighting the ko. Black also is a bit short of ko threats, so he is playing local ko threats. And he has this ko threat, finally. And I have to connect. I ran out of ko threats, and I had to connect. Oh, yes. Don't forget to like the video. Thank you, Safari. So at this point, the ko has cooled down just a little bit because my group on the side is connected. I've got a respectable territory out of it. So this is slightly bigger than 20 points. And this group on the outside, it's outside. So it's not going to die outright. It's out in the open. Black does have 2 cutting points to look at. So there's this cutting point and this cutting point. But it's not going to be, it's going to take some time for them to work. So black's going to leave it for now. And he jumped out. So this is a point where I didn't realize it, but black is still winning. So black should have cut here and gone after the 2 stones. So capturing these 2 stones is the quickest way for black to create a living shape. And also, by cutting here, it puts more direct pressure on white in the center. And so it's exaggerating the threat here of this pushing through and cutting here. Because when black does that, it's going to fill liberties. It's going to fill white's liberties. So the idea is that, let's see what variation I'm in. So white plays here. For instance, in a variation where white does this, and just for instance, say black plays here, you can see black is threatening a snapback. So there's a snapback here that black is threatening. So that added filling of white's liberties is actually black 1 is the effective move that is filling white's liberties. So it's really effective here. So if black had played that way, let's see. This is the better move for me, but black's going to capture those 2 stones anyway. Pretty clear that I don't have time to try to save them. If I try to save them, it's going to be bad on this side. So this would be a dangerous ko for me. Or black could even just connect, I suppose. Black could even just connect, and I have 2 cutting points there. So I'm not going to be able to save that. So if black had cut here, just to show you that variation once more, just with this ko, yeah, it's a wild fight. This is the computer-generated variation. You can black is alive on the top there. So the fact that black has captured the 2 stones, it gave black the eye, and basically white 20 and black 23 here. These were interchangeable. So black was alive the moment black captured those 2 stones, and black is the fight continues to the top side. I don't remember exactly what it was, but the computer was giving black a winning position, a good winning percentage. So in the game, this seems such a natural move, but the problem with it is that this sequence, it sort of naturally got rid of the threat of these cutting points here, and it gave me an efficient position from which to be in an attacking position. So now if white plays here next, that's going to be trouble for the black group in the center. And so white is actually chasing black around and getting profit from this attack. So it was from here forward that the game seems to start to favor white. It's still a close game, but it's starting to look good for white. And this 5-5 point might look wild, but in this game, I still have issues with all these cutting points here. So making my group stronger and sort of, you might say, on top of the black groups, I have to be on top and attack black. I have to attack black so that my group does not get attacked. So like if I mundane moves like on the 3rd line, moves like this, they're just too slow. And we have to remember that this corner, it's still not alive yet. So at some point I have to get back to it. So the recipe for white to win this game, it still includes attacking black in the center and ending with sente so that I can get back to the lower left corner. So that's necessary. So I play here, attacking, continuing to attack, keeping on top of black like this, splitting black, is much more important than any immediate territory. So that's what I'm doing with this whole sequence, just pressing and pressing. And here black has managed to live. So black has at least 1 eye here. So this is a shape where if black plays at this point, it's going to be 2 eyes. So if I were to attempt to kill this black group, I would have to start with that point. Because black has another eye. If black plays at this point, black's going to get an eye in the center there. So black has a potential eye there. If I were to try to kill this black group, I would have to start from here. And now this is just 1 eye. And then I would have to play here. So white 1 here, this is expanding black's territory. So when in the case that black manages to live, that's going to be a negative. It's going to be what we call mochikomi. It's giving black points. The move I play at 3, this is a 1-point move. So like trying to kill this black group is not something it's not going to be fun. It's just a lot of wasted moves. And so if we play here for black, this is threatening to play at this point and make a second eye. So I would have to do something like this. If black plays here, again, black's starting to create an eye there. Look at all these cutting points. So now black can cut white off here. Black can cut white off with a move here. And black can cut white off here. So my position is just going to fall apart. Black 6, it might be better to play that move here, but it's just not, it's not working for white. I have too much to worry about, and actually black is already going to be out in the center. So it's just not going to work. So the moment black plays this move, black's group in the center, it's pretty much alive. And so my attack is coming to an end here. I've managed to get into the right side. So that's one of the goals that I've accomplished. I've got into the right side, stopping black from making this area. And my group is starting to look a bit more healthy. And I decided I had time to play back here. So actually this was fairly well executed. And the game is very close. The computer says I have a slight lead, and that's how I calculated it too. I have something like, let's see, this is a bit more than 20 points. It's less than 25 points. So let's say this is 6 points, or 5 or 6 points. So let's say this is close to 30 points. I have at least 10 points here, plus some extra on the side. So it's 40 so points, probably a few points attached to this group. So let's say black needs, with Komi, black needs something like 50 points. Black has captured 2 stones with this group, so that's at least 4 points. And sort of a kind of a potential extra point here. Black can cut to capture the stone. There's some extra potential. So that's close to Komi. Let's say it's 5 or 6 points. This group is something like 10 points. Maybe a bit less than 10 points. This is close to 10 points. This is a bit less than 10 points too. So let's say that these 3 groups add up to be slightly more than 20. Black has a few points here too. And black has this area, which is roughly 20 points. Black's going to make it into something a bit bigger, but it's roughly 20 points. So white has a slight lead in territory, but white still has some issues. Okay. 1992, you were there. Blue internet was there. So white still has some issues with this group. So this is what black is going to try to exploit. This whole group, it's just a lot of sort of loosely connected stones that are not even really connected. So black's group in the center is already close enough to being alive, but white's group there, it still has some issues. So black starts with this ko. Black has ko threats now. So black's going to win this ko and has more than 1 cutting point. So black can play here to cut white off at that point. I've squeezed on the top, so I'm connected up here. And I'm loosely connected here. So these groups are pretty much connected for all means. But there's the cutting point here and the cutting point here. And since black has ko threats, I can't win that ko. It means that these cutting points are going to be a problem for me. By the way, Iwamoto was well known for his ability to start ko's and turn around difficult games. That was one of his specialities when he was a top pro. I should talk about that a bit. He was the Honinbo for several years. I think it was actually just two titles. He took the title, the 3rd Honinbo, I believe it was. Let's see, I have it written down. He was, he took the 3rd Honinbo. It was in 1945, so at the end of the Second World War. And one of the games he played in that series was actually what they call the atom bomb game, because the game was scheduled to be played in Hiroshima the very day that America dropped an atom bomb on Hiroshima. And so the game was supposed to be right in the center of the city in one of the hotels. And they got kicked out at the last minute because the police, they apparently knew that there was going to be some kind of a bombing of the city. So they wouldn't allow the game to be played in the middle of the city. And because of that, the players, I think it was his opponent was Hashimoto Utaro, I believe, that saved their lives, I suppose. Um, and so there's actually a movie about Goseigen that has that scene. They were playing on the outskirts of Hiroshima because they got kicked out of the town, and this huge bomb dropped, and everything in the room got overturned. So that's the story. The Go board was turned, it was blown away also, and the players, of course. Um, but they thought it was just another bomb, and they were getting used to being blown up. Um, so they just rearranged the stones on the board and continued playing. So that was the second game of the Honinbo. Maybe I'll comment on it sometime. It's not one of the most exciting games, but it was the third Honinbo match, and they only played 6 games of that match. It was 3-3 at the end of 1945, and I think they finished that tournament, that title match, the next year. It was a very difficult period when Japan was trying to reconstruct the country, so it took time for them to finish those title matches. And Iwamoto won the title that time, and he defended it the next time. And I think it was a number of years before they played the fifth Honinbo. So and he lost that time. So he was the Honinbo for several years. And one of his specialities was turning games around with a ko in the middle game. So this is kind of his special trick. And he does have an abundance of ko threats. So I end up playing this move to connect my stones. And so my group here, let's just add a few more moves. Let's just add the peep here. Black's played some forcing moves. So my group from here to this point, it's all connected up. If black has enough ko threats, black will be able to push through and cut here. So this would be another ko, in which I would. It's sort of bad for black locally because he's adding to the stones that will be captured if white manages to win the ko. So it becomes a more dangerous ko for black also. For the time being, though, he's forced me to play what amounts to a damepon. It's a useless move. Well, it's useful because it's connecting my stones, but it's not useful in making any territory. So he's forced me to play that move, and he gets to play this huge move on the right side. So his attack it's working, and I still have to fight the ko. I don't have any eyes for this group yet, so I have to do something to reinforce it. So that's what this ko is about now. And he still has plenty of ko threats, and so I play here. So my idea is that I have a few more ko threats if black is going to answer that, and eventually maybe I'm going to be able to win the ko. Oh, we have a Japanese guest. Haken Kaisha. Ohayou gozaimasu. Blue Internet is asking a difficult question. Language questions are already different. Sente is the direct answer to that. That's just having a tempo. Having a tempo is sente. Having an initiative in a more general sense is probably a different word. Okay, so black finished the ko. After the game, Iwamoto said maybe this was the losing move, and he should have continued attacking, or maybe played here. There's the idea that black should just allow white to win this ko and get some extra. So, for instance, something like this. Let's have black play here and play big points. Playing 3 big points while white finishes the ko. This is one way for black to continue. So it would be something like this. I believe Katago says that white's going to win anyway. So I think maybe I was winning at this point. Okay, Leonardo wants R5 to come back to life. It's not going to happen in this game. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. Not in this variation. If black had not played this move, maybe, but not in this variation. So black finished the ko, and now we're into what is Yeah, so I have to answer here, but I did get these two forcing moves in, which reinforce my group. And so I'm going to be alive. I took the opportunity to play this, which gives me a half eye on the top. And this was the final big move. So black is attacking my group there. Yeah, he's cut it off. But I'm going to be okay because this is forcing. And I have an eye there on the at P19. And so now if black continues, let's see what happens if black continues. Okay, I'll probably be doing let's see. Let's do it this way. One way I can live is I could play here. This would be one way of living. It would be very painful. So if black plays here, I can connect. And this would be easy enough. But black is actually going to capture here and capture here. This would be very, very painful. So I'm not going to do it that way. So white's going to, let's have white play here. The idea being that if black cuts here, white can probably afford to play once here. But I can live, basically I can live like this. So that's a better way for me to live. And if black refuses to allow that, it's going to be something like this. Or something like this. So it's not alive locally, but now black is going to die. So this race to capture, it's going to be a collapse for black. White's going to win this. Black has this group in the center. It doesn't have enough room. Doesn't have enough liberties. So that's how I survive. And of course, for the time being, I'm threatening to capture the black stone at K15. And so we go back to the endgame. Yeah, and now it's just an endgame. So let's just go through the endgame here. It turns out it was a perfect endgame. The score, the projected territory didn't change during this endgame when I looked at it with Katago. So white wins by, let's see, I think I have a result here somewhere. Let's see if I can bring up the result. Yeah. So white won by 4.5 points. So that's a 1 point win for black before Komi because it was a 5.5 point Komi game. Yeah, so to talk just a little bit more about Mr. Iwamoto, when I came to Japan, I went to his study group. So he had this little building. People would call it a condominium in America. Interestingly, they call in Japan they call condominiums mansions. So it's the same thing. It's not so glamorous, but it's just a condominium. And he had this whole building of his own. And one of the floors was a Go Club. So when a foreigner would come, when a Westerner would come to Japan, one of the things that people would do is they would visit Iwamoto's Go Club because he invited anyone to come. And I went to his study group. So his study group was with players like Magari Reiki, Magari was one of Iwamoto's students. He was another 9-dan. And a lot of strong players. So a lot of professional players who were sort of directly connected to Mr. Iwamoto. Sometimes the Kobayashi brothers came. Strictly speaking, I think they were affiliated with the Kitani school. But Kitani was dead by that time. And so sometimes they were coming to visit Iwamoto's study group. Iwamoto was actually one of the people who helped to rebuild the Go Association, the Japanese Go Association, after the Second World War. So like everything was burned to the ground after the war, especially in big cities like Tokyo. And so they had to rebuild from nothing. There was a period, I think it was during the war maybe, where actually Iwamoto's house was where they played the tournament games. So they didn't have anywhere to play tournament games. They played at his house. So when I came to Japan, he was a very influential influential person in the Nihonkin. There was a period where he was the director of the Nihonkin, that's Japanese Go Association. I think he'd quit that by the time I got there, but he was still very influential. I remember there were people coming to talk about him, about new plans they had. When they wanted to do something new, they would talk to him about it. When he rebuilt the Nihonkin, I think my impression is that he was really good at fundraising, so he had connections. And so, yeah, he was my teacher for a while there. After that, I did become a disciple, you might say, of Mr. Oeda. So he was not formally my teacher, but I did spend a lot of time at his study group. So it was a great experience for me to be playing him after he retired. He was 90 years old at the time of this game. So it's pretty amazing that he's playing such so competitively. He didn't really spend so much. I think I was spending more time thinking than he was in this game. It was more challenging for me. He was playing relatively quickly. So it's pretty amazing he can play such a competitive game here. It was after he'd retired, and he was 90 years old. So yeah, I have to respect that. So I'm coming to an end here. And it was an exciting game. So I enjoyed that. And I enjoyed talking about Mr. Iwamoto. You have to remember he donated a huge sum of money. It was that Go Club, actually, that condominium that was the Go Club. Some of the students actually lived in different floors of that building. It was a narrow little, I think it was 5 stories or something like that. Westerners who visited Japan at the time will probably remember it. It was in a place called Ebisu, which is expensive side of the town now. And it was the most expensive time in Japan. Like, it was in the middle of the bubble. And so he got a lot of money when he sold that and donated everything to promoting Go in the West. So that was very generous of him. And it was a huge sum of money. So thanks for everyone for staying to the end. Don't forget to like this video and sign up to my channel so you can there's all sorts of videos at my channel, so sign up. I do have a Patreon page, so you can join Patreon if you want to support the channel. So let's see if I can find the link. I'll just put the link in the chat here. Sorry to people from Twitch. I didn't have the chats showing, but thanks for everyone for coming. Thank you and goodbye.